A mother's strength? The silent power of movement during pregnancy? Are you pregnant and feeling unsure about how to move your body safely? Or maybe you're overwhelmed by the flood of advice and just want to know what actually helps. You're not alone in today. We're diving into something that could completely transform your pregnancy journey. In this video, we're not just talking about fitness wear, sharing the real story of a mother who discovered the quiet power of movement during pregnancy, and how specific, gentle exercises gave her strength, balance, and confidence both physically and emotionally. Whether you're in your first trimester or weeks away from delivery, this is your sign to stop fearing movement and start embracing it. Because yes, pregnant women, be sure to do these specific exercises for pregnant women. And once you understand why, you'll never look at your body the same way again. Stick around. Your journey to a stronger, more empowered pregnancy starts right now. But before the video starts, write in the comments, from where you are watching this video, thank you. It was a cloudy Tuesday morning when Emily first felt the subtle shift in her body, not quite pain, but a deep sensation, a tug of something growing, rearranging itself. She sat at the edge of her bed, one hand resting gently on her belly, and realized the tiny life inside her had begun to stretch. 4 weeks, she had been reading every book, following every blog, watching every video on prenatal care, and attending her doctor's appointments with the meticulous focus of someone studying for the most important exam of her life. But there was something missing, something more than just knowledge. She needed to move. She needed to connect her changing body to her evolving mind. And that's when she heard it on a podcast playing quietly in the background. A phrase that would resonate through her entire journey. Pregnant women. Be sure to do these specific exercises for pregnant women. The voice was warm, calm, and insistent, not demanding, but encouraging in a way that made Emily sit up straighter, almost instinctively. Those words echoed inside her, calling her to action. She hadn't realized how still she had become over the past weeks. Fear had made her cautious, and caution had turned to inactivity. But now, as she looked down at the soft curve of her belly, she understood that stillness was no longer serving her. She needed strength. Not just emotional or mental resilience, though that would certainly come, but physical, grounding, stabilizing strength. She rolled out her yoga mat for the first time in months. The smell of rubber and the faint scent of lavender from her essential oils filled the room. Her heart pounded, not from exertion, but anticipation. What would it feel like to move now, with a life growing inside her? Would she be capable? Would she be safe? Every resource she had explored so far repeated the same advice, with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Pregnant women, be sure to do these specific exercises for pregnant women. But none of them had shown what it meant emotionally, spiritually, to stretch a body that was no longer yours alone. She began gently slow cat-cow stretches, feeling the spine expand and contract with a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with her baby's heartbeat. It was strange, the way everything felt unfamiliar yet deeply intuitive. Her limbs obeyed her, but slowly, cautiously, as if they too were learning how to carry this new weight, not just of her baby, but of her future, her responsibility, her joy and fear, wrapped in one. As the weeks passed, Emily committed to a ritual. Each morning began with movement. Sometimes it was yoga, sometimes light walking in the park, where she'd pause under the same oak tree to breathe deeply and press her hands to her belly. Other days she followed along with prenatal Pilates videos that focused on the core, not to flatten or sculpt, as she might have once desired, but to support, to stabilize, to fortify her center for the labor to come. And always, at the start of each session, she reminded herself, pregnant women, be sure to do these specific exercises for pregnant women, not out of vanity, not for appearances, but because her body was becoming a vessel of transformation, and strength would be her anchor. In her third trimester, movement became more challenging. Her back ached from the new curvature of her spine. Her feet swelled, and her hands tingled at night, yet she persisted, modifying the routines, listening more closely to the cues her body whispered. She learned to distinguish between fatigue and resistance, between discomfort and danger. She didn't push herself beyond what was necessary, but she never let herself go completely still again. Because stillness, she had learned, was not rest. Not now. Stillness was surrender. Her doctor noticed. Your posture is incredible, he said during one of her checkups. Most women by this point are leaning back to compensate for the weight. But you're upright, aligned. Emily smiled, secretly proud. She didn't mention the hours she had spent learning how to engage her pelvic floor, or how she had used a stability ball instead of a chair for her afternoon reading sessions. She didn't explain how she had transformed movement into meditation, or how, when the anxiety crept in during the quiet hours of the night, she would get up and gently stretch, letting each breath carry her fear away like fog, lifting in the dawn. She didn't need to say any of it. Her body spoke for her. At her prenatal fitness class, she met other women who shared her journey. They too had been inspired by that same advice, perhaps worded differently but with the same core message. Don't be afraid to move. Together they laughed through awkward squats, held each other steady during wall sits, and exchanged knowing glances during deep breathing exercises. There was a sisterhood in sweat, a communion in effort. They weren't training for a marathon, yet they were preparing for one of the greatest endurance events a human could undertake. Birth wasn't just a moment, it was a culmination, and every lunge, every side stretch, every gentle hip opener brought them closer to being ready. On the day labor finally arrived, it came with the slow certainty of a tide turning. Emily woke with a feeling, not pain, not yet, but a deep awareness that today would be different. The hours passed in a blur of contraction and calm, pain and peace. She moved through it. Literally, she walked, she swayed, she leaned against the wall, rotating her hips the way she had practiced. When the contractions grew sharper, she remembered her breathing drills. When exhaustion threatened to consume her, she dropped into child's pose, modified, supported by pillows, and let gravity hold her for a moment longer. Her body remembered. It didn't fight, it cooperated. And when the final moment came, when her child entered the world crying in pink and impossibly beautiful, Emily cried too, not just from joy, but from the overwhelming realization that she had done it. Not just the birth, but the whole journey. She had respected her body, she had trained it with love and attention, and now, as she cradled her daughter to her chest, she knew every single movement, every stretch and breath and step, had been worth it. Weeks later, as she walked her baby through the park, she passed under the same oak tree and paused again. Her body was softer now, looser in places, tighter in others. Her muscles ached in new ways, her sleep was fractured, and her mind was a maze of hormones and responsibilities. But she still moved slowly, with care, but she moved. Not just for her baby though, that was part of it, but for herself, because she had learned something fundamental, something unshakable. The human body, especially the pregnant body, is capable of astonishing things when we trust it, honor it, and strengthen it. A passing jogger stopped to compliment her wrap carrier. They exchanged small talk, the kind mothers learn to master through fatigue, and as the woman turned to leave, she smiled and said, "You look so strong. By the way." Emily laughed softly. "Thanks, I've been working on it." That night, as she rocked her daughter to sleep, she thought again of that podcast, those words that had started it all. Pregnant women. Be sure to do these specific exercises for pregnant women. How simple the sentence had seemed at first, just a bit of advice. But now she understood it was a doorway, an invitation, a promise that strength and motherhood were not separate things. They were partners, intertwined, and one day, maybe, when her daughter carried life within her own body, Emily would whisper the same words, not just as a reminder, but as a gift.